There's a moment in life when everything you thought was certain begins to blur, when the quiet ticking of time brings questions that no one can easily answer. What happens after we take our last breath? Is death truly the end? Or could it be the doorway to something far greater, something beyond the grasp of science and reason? For many, especially those of us in the later chapters of life, these questions stir a deep curiosity and sometimes a quiet hope. What if the story doesn't end here? What if there's a vast universe waiting just beyond the veil of what we know? This is where the thoughts of Jim Carrey, a man known for making millions laugh, take a surprising turn. Beyond the spotlight, Carrey has grappled with the profound mysteries of existence, offering reflections that touch the soul. His ideas about life after death, about God and the universe, invite us to consider a perspective that is both comforting and deeply transformative. It's a perspective that calls on us to release fear and instead embrace the unknown with wonder. Jim speaks not as a distant philosopher, but as someone who has faced the emptiness that success could not fill, and found there a glimpse of something more meaningful. He reminds us that life's true answers may not lie in material gain, but in understanding the essence of who we really are. And that essence, he believes, is eternal. When we think about death, many imagine darkness, silence, or finality. But Jim's view suggests something quite different. Imagine death as a kind of awakening, like waking from a deep sleep or stepping through a door into a brighter, clearer world. This idea, while simple, has the power to change how we live and how we face our own mortality. It encourages us to see life not as a race against time, but as a journey of consciousness expanding beyond the limits of our physical form. Carrey's journey to these beliefs wasn't sudden. It was a gradual unfolding shaped by personal struggle and deep reflection. He speaks candidly about how fame and fortune left him feeling hollow, pushing him to search for something more enduring than applause or wealth. This search led him to explore spirituality, not in the sense of religious doctrine, but as a direct experience of connection to everything around us. He often describes God not as an external judge, but as the life force that flows through every living thing, the invisible thread that links us to the stars, the earth, and each other. This vision of God is intimate, universal, and profoundly hopeful. It suggests that we are not isolated beings, but part of a greater whole that transcends physical boundaries. For those of us moving into the later years of life, these ideas can be especially comforting. They speak to the fears we carry about dying alone or being forgotten. Carrey's words offer a gentle reminder: our true selves are never lost. They simply move on to a new form of existence. This idea can bring peace, allowing us to live fully in the present without being haunted by the unknown. But what does this mean for how we live now? If life is a brief chapter in an ongoing story of consciousness, how might that change our daily choices, our relationships, and our sense of purpose? Jim suggests that by recognizing the eternal nature of our essence, we can release attachment to superficial concerns and focus on love, compassion, and connection. He invites us to see ourselves as more than the sum of our achievements or possessions. Instead, we are sparks of a vast cosmic energy, unique expressions of something timeless and infinite. This realization can transform not only how we approach death, but how we celebrate life. As you listen to these reflections, you might feel a stirring deep inside, a mixture of curiosity, comfort, and perhaps even a bit of wonder. These feelings are not accidental. They connect to a universal human experience, the longing to understand our place in the grand scheme of things. Jim Carrey's words open a door to that mystery, encouraging us to step through with courage. This is not a journey that requires leaving anything behind except fear and doubt. It's an invitation to embrace a broader view of existence, one that honors the past, enriches the present, and offers hope for what lies beyond. For those of us over 50, 60, or even beyond, these reflections can serve as a guidepost, a light shining gently toward peace, acceptance, and a deeper appreciation of the life we've lived. and the journey yet to come. So what might happen when we die? Is there truly life after death? According to Jim Carrey, the answer may be closer to a profound awakening than a final farewell. His perspective challenges us to rethink what we believe and to open our hearts to the mystery of the universe, the possibility of God, and the eternal nature of our own souls. As we continue to explore this conversation, keep in mind that the greatest discoveries often begin with questions. Questions that don't demand immediate answers, but invite us into a space of quiet reflection and profound understanding. The story of life after death is not just a story of endings, but of beginnings, and Jim Carrey's insights invite us to embrace that truth with hope and grace. If this idea resonates with you, take a moment now, breathe deeply, let go of any fear or resistance, and allow yourself to simply be present with the mystery. Because sometimes the most important journey we take is not outward, but inward toward the heart of what it means to live, to love, and ultimately to transcend. But here's where it gets even more extraordinary. Jim Carrey doesn't just speak about life after death like a distant idea. He speaks from experience, from a place of personal transformation, pain, and profound spiritual awakening. He shares how during moments of silence and surrender, he began to see differently. Not with his eyes, but with something deeper. He talks about watching the illusion of his own identity, his fame, his name, even the idea of being Jim Carrey, slowly fall away, revealing something eternal underneath, something unbreakable. For many people in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, this moment of unveiling resonates deeply, because you've lived long enough to know how quickly life changes. You've watched roles shift, children grow up, careers end, bodies change, friends pass on. And in those changes, something begins to stir in you. A sense that there's more beneath the surface, that perhaps what the world sees is only a shadow of who you truly are. Jim puts words to that silent knowing. He describes the soul not as a fragile thing, but as the only real thing, and the body, the job, the accolades, the expectations, all temporary clothing. He says, you're not the actor playing the role, you're the light behind the character. And when the curtain falls, when this life ends, that light doesn't flicker out. It returns to the source of all light, the place some call heaven, others call the divine, and Jim calls simply home. Imagine for just a moment if that were true, that everything you've loved and lost, every lesson you've carried was not erased at the end, but absorbed, carried forward into something greater, not lesser. Now pause and breathe with that. It's easy as the years pass to feel like your life is slowly narrowing, that options fade, that time slips through your hands like sand. But what if the opposite is true? What if in this later chapter you are actually drawing closer to truth, to yourself, to what really matters? Jim Carrey speaks of how suffering, yes, even the darkest nights, can become portals. He recalls the crushing weight of depression, not as a curse, but as a moment when the false self began to dissolve. When the ego dies, he says the soul begins to speak. And for many in later life, that voice has been whispering for years. It's the voice that tells you to slow down, to forgive someone you haven't spoken to in decades, to write that letter, to walk outside in the early morning and feel the sun on your skin without rushing anywhere. Because time isn't something to race anymore, it's something to bless, to savor, to listen through. This isn't just philosophy, it's freedom. And it's available to you right now. Jim's vision of the universe is not one of harsh judgment or separation, but of cosmic connection. He believes, as many ancient traditions also teach, that everything is energy, and all energy is connected. That means your thoughts, your memories, your prayers, they don't vanish, they echo, they ripple out like soft waves across eternity. Think of someone you've loved deeply who has passed on, someone whose absence left a silence nothing else could fill. Now imagine, they're not gone, not really, just changed. shifted into a form you can't yet see, but still feel. Jim says love is the one force that cannot die, because it wasn't born from the body, it was born from the soul, and the soul is eternal. That love you carry, it lives on. Maybe that's why you still hear their laughter in a quiet room, or feel their presence during the holidays, or dream of them when your heart is tired, because they never really left, they just returned to the source. And in a way, they're closer to you now than ever. All of this may sound poetic, but more and more science is starting to align with what mystics and seekers have always known. Quantum physicists talk about the field of consciousness, a realm where time and space don't behave as we expect, where information, emotion, even being can't be neatly contained. Jim Carrey's reflections point to this mystery, that perhaps we are not brains in bodies, but consciousness experiencing form temporarily, and when the form dissolves, the consciousness continues, not as a memory but as a living spark, for the listener who's walked through life with wonder and doubt, with faith that has bent but never fully broken. This idea feels less like fiction and more like homecoming. So then the question becomes, if life after death is real, if love endures, if our consciousness is part of a divine eternal flow, then how should we live now? Jim offers a gentle answer: live like it matters, not because of rules, not out of fear, but because every act of kindness, every word of truth, every smile offered to a stranger ripples out beyond this world. Your life, no matter where you are in it, is not a fading echo. It's a signal, a transmission from your soul to the world and back again. You're not too late, not too old, not forgotten. You are precisely where you're meant to be, in the part of the journey where the soul begins to speak louder than ever. And it says this: you are more than this moment. You are more than your pain. You are more than what you've lost. You are eternal. So when the winds of time grow colder, when your body aches, when memories visit you uninvited, let them come. Let them remind you of the beautiful, fragile, powerful life you've lived, and then lift your heart just slightly to what lies beyond, not with fear, but with wonder. Because as Jim Carrey says, maybe death is just the universe saying, well done, now come rest. Come remember who you truly are, and maybe, just maybe, the most beautiful chapter is still ahead. And so we arrive at the edge of the great mystery, that quiet place where words begin to fade and only feeling remains. Jim Carrey's journey reminds us that life is not a straight line but a spiral, a sacred unfolding, from innocence to experience, from identity to essence, and eventually from this world to whatever comes next. For those of us in our 50s, 60s, or beyond, this truth becomes more than just an idea. It becomes something we feel in our bones, in the quiet mornings, in the photographs we hold on to, in the people we've loved and lost, and still carry with us in every breath. Maybe that's the gift of this stage of life, not just looking back, but looking through the stories we were told, through the fears we've carried, and into the deep, steady light that's always been waiting underneath. Carrey reminds us, you are not your wrinkles, you are not your regrets, you are not your past, you are soul in motion, part of something so vast, so luminous, so kind, that even death can't break it. So when the day comes, when the final curtain falls, don't be afraid. Smile. Because all of this, every moment, every tear, every laugh, has been leading you home. And if you're still here listening, you are meant to be. You are not done. Your light still has something to give. Your story is still being written. We hope this journey has stirred something within you. A question, a memory, a sense of wonder. If something in this message spoke to the deepest part of you, then you're not alone. This channel was created for you. For those of us asking the big questions, for those walking the later chapters with open hearts, for those who still believe that life and what comes after is sacred. So if this touched you, if you want more stories, more truth, more light, then we invite you, subscribe to the channel. Join this quiet, powerful circle of souls who haven't stopped seeking. Because here you are seen, you are valued, and you are never, ever alone.